Let's braid like a pro and let's learn how to do a full detailed video on parting. So I'm going to start by taking her natural hair and splitting it into 3 sections like so. I'm going to now take my right finger, push it through the middle while clamping onto that far left piece and adding in a small piece of extension braiding hair. I take that top piece of the middle hair that was left out and I'm pulling at a downward angle while pushing my right hand and index finger through the middle, clamping onto that far left piece and holding on to it in place while adding another second piece of extension braiding hair. As I add in that second piece, I'm going to stop and add in a third piece. But before I do that, let's slow this clip down and let's learn how to braid together. So now that I have it sectioned off into 3 pieces of her natural hair, I'm going to now take my index finger and place it directly through the middle. I start with my right hand and I am going to push my index finger through the middle by clamping on to that left far right piece of her natural hair. I have the top piece of her middle section here resting on top of my index finger in place. I am now going to take a small piece of extension braided hair, clamp it between my index and thumb finger, and it's going to stay rested right there. Now that top piece that I had rested on top of my index finger, that piece is going to be braided downward in a downward position. So I'm going to braid it down by holding on to the hair for a nice grip. I'm going to take that top piece with the extension hair together, and I'm going to take my left hand, keep my thumb and my index finger clamped together, my middle finger, and then I'm going to take my index finger and push it directly through the middle. This is how you keep a good grip, my friends. So I've been listening to your comments and you guys are trying to figure out how to keep a good grip. This is how you do it. So make sure your fingers are planted closely to the scalp. You don't want to braid too tightly, but just tightly enough to where your hair is secure and the braid will be secure. So this is my second piece of extension braiding hair that I have clamped between my index and thumb finger. And I'm going to intertwine that in 2 times. I'm going to stop, add another piece, braid that in 2 times. 1, 2. I stop. I'm going to take a third piece of braiding hair and place it between my index and thumb finger, braid that in 2 times. 2. And then I'm going to take a fourth piece, add that piece in again between my index and thumb finger. This is how you overhand your braid. I am a overhand braider as I begin my braids, and then I am an underhand braider as I get ready to braid the braids down. So that was a total of 5 pieces of small extension braiding hair that was added into her braid. Look how beautiful that is. That is a perfect knotless braid. So I now have taken my 6th piece of braiding hair and I'm going to braid that in as well as I braid down. But wait, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a detailed clip of how to add in that extension piece of braiding hair. So as you see here, I took the same size that I've been using the entire time. And what I'm doing is I'm resting between my index and thumb finger. I've clamped it in between my index and thumb finger. Now I am going to take that top piece and I am trying to push in the added piece into those creases so that way it blends nicely. Again, I'm taking that small piece and I'm pushing it in that crease like so. So that way I can braid it in and it blends nicely. Now I can feel in my fingertips that I need to add a 7th piece because it's going to eventually thin out as I begin to braid again. So now that I add my 7th piece, this is the braid and the size that I'm looking for. And I know and I feel confident that all of my braids will be consistent and they will all look the same. Look how beautiful those parts are. And look how beautiful the braids are. My friends, this is how you start your knotless braid. So I'm going to braid it down to the tips. That way the ends are nice and sealed. But before I begin, I want to let you guys know that this detailed video is on how to part as well. So we have a total of 3 braids at our bottom row. For our second row, we are going to part out the braids together. But let me just show you exactly how I parted out the bottom row so that way you get an idea. So what you want to do is you want to take your precision parting comb, start at an upward angle with the tip of your comb. Once you create that first angle, you're going to take it from the middle and keep that sharp angle for your triangular part and part downward. And that's how you create your first 3. So for a better example, I'm going to show you here in this description of how to do so. So I took my time to count out this row as well, so that way you can know how many braids were added. So here is our first triangular part. I started from the top and I worked my way at an angle down. And then I started again at the top and worked my angle to the right side of her head. And as I complete this part, I'm going to take my precision parting comb and then I'm going to start at the top and work my way to the left side of her head. So what I'm doing here is I'm alternating sides, and that is how I create my triangular parts. So now that I've created this third part, I'm going to take my precision parting comb and I'm going to start at the top by parting at an angle towards the right side. So pretty much it's like a left, right type of swing here. Once you get that method down, then you will be a pro at parting. So I took a little bit of that braid gel again and I'm applying it down in her parts. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that way I can clean those parts up. Parting is a big deal. If your parts are nice and clean, then the look of your braids will look exceptionally nice. So you want to make sure that your parting is on point. Now this braid gel that I'm using here, it can turn white with a little bit of residue on different textures of hair. However, if you are going to use this braid gel, all you have to do is take a little bit of oil sheen to your client's hair, or you can oil their scalp and it'll take the white residue away. So I would like to go back over how I started my knotless braid again. I parted her hair out into 3 sections of her natural hair with my fingers. I'm going to clamp hold of that first right piece and I'm going to push my index and finger through the middle as I clamp onto the far left piece. Now, as I'm clamping onto these pieces, I am not letting any piece go because I'm trying to aim for a perfect grip. So I went ahead and clamped that first piece to the right, pushed my index finger through the middle, and I'm clamping onto that left piece. I am not letting any piece go. So as I'm holding this, I'm going to place a small piece of extension braiding hair, and I'm going to clamp that between my index and my thumb finger. And as I hold that in place, I'm going to take that top piece that we discussed that is resting on top of my index finger, and I'm going to gather it with the extension hair. And I'm going to hold it in a downward position while intertwining it to push my index finger from my left hand through the middle up under, and it's going to go directly up underneath that piece of hair as I clamp onto that far right piece, and I won't let anything go. Take that middle piece, go back down at another downward angle, like so, and push your finger through again. This is how you intertwine the braid, and this is how you can perfect it in sizing. So you want to make sure you're adding in that second piece of hair, but you don't want to let it go. Keep your fingers planted as closely to the scalp as possible while adding in all of your braiding extension pieces. So far we have 3. Remember, I added 7 to the previous braid. So with this braid here, we're going to have an additional 7 pieces of hair. Keep that same consistency. So whatever size you're going for, make sure you're counting how many pieces that you are placing so that way everything is consistent. So before we begin this next clip, I want to just go back over exactly how many braids and how many rows. So we have a total of 5 rows. I am working on my 5th row now. So for the first bottom row, we did a total of 3 braids. Our second bottom row, we did a total of 5. As I went on to the second level of her head, we started off for our first U-shaped parting with a number of 10 braids. And then for our second part of U-shaped parting, we did a total of 11. So we are now working on our third shape of U parting. So this will now make our 5th row. And as I am beginning parting out this row, I will then explain how many braids were in this row, but I don't know just yet because we are just now parting it. Remember, as I always state in most of my previous videos, everyone's head size is different, so this is the number of braids we ended up doing on her specific head shape, but I cannot say that that is what you're going to need for your client or for your head. You may either end up needing more or less, but I'm just giving you the total count that was used for this particular client. I'm not sure if I mentioned how many packs of hair we used, but if I didn't mention that, we used a total of 4 packs of Expressions braiding hair and the length 52 inches, and we used color 1B. So I like to part at an angle starting from her face, working at an angle towards the top. And then once I get towards the top and I've parted out my first angle, I'll start from the middle, work my way down, and then come back up. So again, remember I told you guys it's like a left, right type of thing here. That's exactly what I'm doing. So now I'm starting back at the top again and working at an angle towards the right side of her head to make my 4th row. I'm sorry, not 4th row, but my 4th triangular part braid. So now I started at the bottom and I work my way up at a corner to the left side of her head to make my 5th triangular part braid. And I'll just continue to keep doing that top, bottom method until I get my whole entire complete row of braids. Now we still have a total of 2 more rows to go, and those last 2 rows will complete my middle part. So now that we have finished our 5th row, we are now going to work on our middle part. So there were a total of 12 braids for our 5th row. So now we are working on our middle part. And for our middle part, we are going to make sure that we mirror everything that we did on the right side of her head and mirror it exactly the same for the left side. So we're going to begin by parting out our parts and cleaning up our parts. So now that I have my middle part nice and clean, I am going to start from the frame of her face, from the front of her face, and I'm going to part upward towards the middle part. Now that I'm at the middle of her middle part and I've cleaned up my first triangle part, I'm going to start at the top and work my way at an angle towards the side of her face. I'm going to start at the bottom and then work my way towards the middle part again as a left, right angle. So every time you start from the left of her head, you should be parting downward towards the right. And then once you have started towards the right and in a downward position, you need to start at the top again and come back down. So that's pretty much what I'm doing, starting at an angle, coming up, and then once I get it nice and clean, I'll take my comb, start at an angle from the top and work my way down. And that's how I get my parts nice and clean. And all of our braids look the same. So now that my braids are nice and clean and my braids are looking the same, we have a total of 5 braids for our first section in our middle part area. Remember, I said that we're going to mirror our parts. So we have 5 on this side of her head, then that means we need to mirror our parts and make 5 on the opposite side. And once I make my 5 on the opposite side, that will complete this entire head of parting. Yay, we did it, you guys. So you now know how to part out a full head of triangular parts, and you also know how to braid like a pro. You guys, don't forget to sub this video because we have more content coming and I know you're going to love it. So don't forget to sub. If you can, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this video. What did you find to be most helpful when watching this video? And also don't forget to like this video. Give it a thumbs up if you really enjoyed watching it. So now that we have completed our first 4 braids in the middle, I am now going to show you guys how it looks for our finished look. So now that we have finished our style, I did use some Nairobi hair foam for the braids. We did oil her scalp, and I did use some oil sheen to make sure that there was no white residue left over from the braid gel. Her braids turned out so pretty, and of course, Miss Abby loves them. She has been a client of mine for now a year, and we are going pretty strong. All of her parting is perfect, and all of her parting is even on each side, and the braid down from the start to the finish is consistent. And this is what a professional job should look like. So if you follow this method to the T, you'll definitely be successful when doing this style on your client, on yourself, family member, whatever you decide that you would like to use this detailed video for. I really felt like this video was pretty detailed, you guys. So if you have any more questions, drop them in the comment section below. I do read all of my comments and I try to respond to all of them as well. It takes me some time, but I do respond to my comments and I try to get as much information for you as possible. But definitely leave some comments. Let me know if you have any questions, if you like the video. And until next time, I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.